Confirmed good means ready to move. Okay, so there are certain things that must be happen, but it is not yet moved. This mercantile agent is not a owner, but he is going to sell my product to somebody else. According to Sale of Goods Act, if I want to sell a good, I must be a owner. If there is a right of ownership, okay, I can transfer the right of ownership to some other person. Firstly, the good had already sold, but he is going to retain the position of good. Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. I am Mr. Hemant Kumar from the Department of Commerce and Management, Vidhyaashram First Aid College, MYSURU, the Temple of Excellence. In today's session, we are going with session 2 of Unit 2. It's about a Sale of Goods Act 1930 under the subject Business Regulatory Framework for 4th semester BCom students. This is agenda of today's session. We are going with the topics of transfer of ownership in goods. Okay, so transfer of ownership in goods and also sale by a non-owner and its exceptions. Okay, so these are the 3 topics that we need to cover in today's session. Transfer of ownership in goods. So what happens? What exactly this transfer of ownership? How can it happen? Okay, so as I had explained in earlier session, according to the Sale of Goods Act, okay, 1930, there are 2 parties in a contract of sale. Let me consider Mr. A and Mr. B. These are 2 parties. Mr. A is a seller, Mr. B is a buyer. Means whatever the transaction that is going to happen according to the Sale of Goods Act, okay, it is between 2 parties. One is a buyer and another one is a seller. Okay, so what happens here? Say for example, Mr. A, he is going to sell a car to Mr. B. Okay, so he is going to transfer his ownership because Mr. A is titled as a owner of that particular car. Okay, so he is going to transfer the ownership to Mr. B. So what happened? He sold the car means it is said that so that ownership of Mr. A had transferred to Mr. B. Now the Mr. B is a owner of that car, and also the transaction is going to happen based on the consideration or monetary consideration. According to the Sale of Goods Act, there must be consideration on the monetary basis, that we call it as a consideration. There are a few general principles of Sale of Goods Act, okay, how actually it is going to happen, and there are certain principles that is included under this act. Okay, so principle number 1, according to section 19 of Sale of Goods Act, it is going to say about the according to contract. It is regarding the specification that had mentioned in a contract. Say for example, as I said, Mr. A is selling car to Mr. B. Okay, so he is selling car to Mr. B. So what happened? Based on certain terms and conditions, as we had studied in the previous session, so all the terms and conditions that must be disclosed by both the parties within the date that we are going to enter into a contract. Means before entering the contract, we are supposed to discuss what all the terms and conditions that is regarding the contract. What color car he is going to sell, okay, so which brand of car he is going to sell, and what is the mileage of a car, if there is any defect or the default in the car. Okay, so what are the advantage, what are the disadvantages, all the things, and when he is going to make the payment, whether he is going to pay full cash or partly he is going to make a payment, whether he is going by a credit basis. Okay, so all the things must be discussed. It is nothing but terms and conditions or the specification about a contract according to the section 19. It is going to say about all the things or the terms and conditions according to section 19 of Sale of Goods Act must be discussed before we enter the sale of goods. Intention of parties, okay, according to section 19. And also this section 19 is also going to say about the intention of both the parties, whether it is a buyer and seller. Okay, so there must be no force. Means here Mr. A does not have any right to force Mr. B to purchase his car. Okay, so he must willingly purchase his car, and also in the same way Mr. B does not have any right to force Mr. A to give his car. Okay, so there must be no force according to the Sale of Goods Act. Intention of parties, both the parties are intended to purchase. Means he is intended to purchase the good, he is intended to sell the good. Means it means that he is ready to sell his good. Okay, specific or ascertained goods according to section 20. So Sale of Goods Act 20 is going to say about the specification of a good that we are going to purchase. Say for example, if I want to purchase Apple iPhone, okay, so I must be specific about a color, I must be specific about a version, I must be specific about a inbuilt and also bionic chip that is included in the mobile or a processor that is included in the mobile. Yes or no? So all the things must be clear and cut. Okay, so clearly specified before entering a contract according to Sale of Goods Act section 20. And also ascertained goods is nothing but a confirmed goods, means seller is ready to sell the good but is not yet mentioned the price of that commodity or a good. Okay, so confirmed good means ready to move. Okay, so there are certain things that must be happen but it is not yet move. Okay, so that should not happen. Okay, so that is nothing but the ascertained goods, ready to move goods. Goods in deliverable state means seller is ready to sell the good but price of that product had not yet decided. Okay, so in that circumstances, he cannot deliver the goods. He cannot say that today you purchase the product, I am going to tell you the price tomorrow. No. So before entering the contract itself, each and everything must be specifically discussed. Okay, so according to Sale of Goods Act, section 21. Goods to be put into deliverable state. Okay, goods must be put into deliverable state. Okay, according to Sale of Goods Act. Okay, so the good must be in a deliverable state. This act is not applicable for the immovable goods, as I said in the first session. Okay, so Sale of Goods Act is only applicable for the good that is movable in nature. It is not applicable for the good which is immovable in nature. Okay, so it may be land and building, it may be any kind of real estate activity. Okay, so it is not applicable under a Sale of Goods Act. Goods sent on approval or sale or return. They are going to specify that once the goods had delivered from the seller to the buyer, there must be something called approval from the end of buyer. Okay, until and unless buyer he is going to approve the good. Okay, so the goods is not yet transferred to the buyer. First thing. Okay, so if he had approved, what happened? The good is delivered. Okay, means delivered means the good is already sold. Okay, so if he is going to reject the good, means very simple. I will give you one beautiful example. So I ordered one cell phone in Amazon India Private Limited online store. Okay, so online shop, what I had ordered a cell phone. So what happened? So cell phone had delivered to me. Until and unless I am going to approve that particular product. Approve means I am going to collect and I am going to mention the OTP. Until and unless I mention, I am going to submit the OTP to the application or the agent. Okay, so I am not the owner of that particular product. The moment I disclose the OTP to the agent, I am the owner of the cell phone. Okay, so what happened? Most of the cases, if there is a damaged product, if there is any default or the defect in the product, what I am supposed to do? I am going to send back that particular product. According to Sale of Goods Act, if there is any damage, okay, if there is any defect, if there is any problem in the product, I am supposed to pay the money, collect the product. I have an opportunity to return the same good again to the seller. That is about Sale of Goods Act. And also, I have a complete right to return the product. Okay, once if I collect the product, I am going to approve it, saying that by sharing the OTP, means it is a kind of approval that is given by the customer to the manufacturer, saying that so I had collected the good is received. Means what happened? The ownership had transferred to me. And again, so if there is any defect or the problem with that particular product, so I do have an option to send back that particular product to the seller. Okay, so that is about approval, sale or rejection. Sale by a non-owner and its exceptions. Here I had given 5 circumstances where how the goods are going to sell by the non-owner of the commodity. and also there are exceptions. Okay, so in final exam, okay, they are not going to ask these points, but also these are the basic points that we need to learn. Okay, but these points are included in this slide, okay, with exceptions. Which are the exception for what kind of point? Okay, fine. Simply, according to Sale of Goods Act, if I want to sell a good, I must be a owner. If there is a right of ownership, okay, I can transfer the right of ownership to some other person, right? So if I don't have ownership, how can I transfer the ownership to other person? If I have the good, if I have a commodity, I can transfer the commodity to other person. I can sell the commodity to other person. If I don't have any kind of a commodity, how can I transfer the commodity to other person? Very simple concept, right? So that is what this sale by a non-owner is going to say. Here there are certain exceptions. Okay, so if I have a ownership, I can sell the product, but according to this act, okay, if I am not a owner of the particular product, but also I do have a right to sell that particular product, there are certain exceptions who can sell the product without ownership. Okay, what circumstances, at what situation that we can sell the product? Okay, so that we are going to learn under this act. Okay, so the concept is very simple. Okay, there are exceptions under section 27 of Sale of Goods Act. Sale by a mercantile agent, very simple. According to the provision of section 27, it is going to say that, okay, sale by a mercantile agent. If a mercantile agent, he is going to sell the good. Mercantile agent is a commercial agent or a middleman or a broker. He is going to deal the car, he is going to deal the bike or any kind of automobile. Okay, so what happens? Sale by a mercantile agent. Say for example, I have a car. I had used the car for 5 years, and after using the car for 5 years, I want to sell the car because I want to buy a new car. Fine. So just I want to sell the car immediately. So what I'm going to do? So I'm going to nowadays I can upload the photos in OLX, and there are a number of online options that I can select and I can sell the product. Okay. So instead of going with that, I want immediate cash. What I'm going to do? I'm going to hand over the car to the mercantile agent. Mercantile agent is a commercial agent or the car dealer in a market. Okay. So what he's going to do? My car is worth of rupees 2 lakh. Let me consider. This is just example, not exactly 2 lakh. Okay. So I'm ready to sell the car for 2 lakh rupees, and mercantile agent is going to agree to sell my car for 2 lakh rupees on the basis of commission of 10%. So if he sell my car for 2 lakh rupees, I am supposed to pay something called commission of 10% to the mercantile agent, because he is not the buyer, hence he is going to stand between me and a customer. Okay, so what happens? Somebody else came to him by looking at my car. Okay, so he is going to purchase my car by paying 2 lakh rupees. Okay, so what happened? He is going to transfer the complete ownership to that person, one who is going to purchase that particular product, because even that person, one who is going to purchase my car, know that that car does not belongs to this agent, mercantile agent. It belongs to me. Fine. So what happened? There is no objection from my end. Hence, I can transfer all the documents to his name. Okay. What happened? There is a transfer of title of ownership. Okay. So before sale, I was a owner. After the sale, he is going to become a owner because there is no objection from my end. Okay, so this will be considered as an exception under Sale of Goods Act. Means this mercantile agent is not a owner, but he is going to sell my product to somebody else. Okay, he have complete right to sell my car with my permission to somebody else according to Sale of Goods Act. Very simple concept. Next one, sale by one of the joint owners. Very, very important. Okay, so according to section 28. So we may see a number of people who is going to purchase the product jointly. For example, there are two persons, Mr. A and Mr. B. Okay, so it is a time of IPL. Okay, just they want to watch IPL every day. Okay, so they had purchased what? Television. They purchased television jointly. Joint ownership it is. Okay, so let me consider the worth of television is 50,000 rupees. So 25 plus 25. Both the parties had contributed equally and purchased television. So what happens? They keep watching television after the completion of IPL. So what happened? It was in Mr. A's house. Okay. So he had retained the TV. They people are not using the TV. Once what happened? Mr. C, friend of Mr. A, had visited Mr. A house and also saw the TV. Okay, it is nice. So what is the cost of the TV? 50,000 rupees. Okay, so are you using the TV? No, he is not using the TV. So he asked the same TV for 40,000 rupees. Okay, so he had purchased, both the parties, they had purchased the TV for 50,000 rupees, but in joint ownership. So what happened? He asked the TV for 40,000 rupees. A agreed to deliver the TV and also the TV was sold to Mr. C. Here, the complete ownership title is given to Mr. C. Okay, because he don't know that both the parties had agreed and purchased, means it is joint ownership TV. He do not know. He is not at all aware of those all things. Okay, so he purchased the TV, means he have a complete right on TV. Here, what happened? He collected 40,000 rupees, Mr. A, from Mr. C. So Mr. B does not have any right on Mr. C, saying that, so we had purchased the TV on the joint ownership, but he had sold the TV that is contributed by me. Please give back the TV. He does not have any right according to Sale of Goods Act, because Mr. C have a clear ownership title of a particular product in terms of joint ownership. Sale by a person, possession of goods under a voidable contract. Firstly, as we had learned in Indian Contract Act 1872 regarding the voidable contract. What is voidable contract? The cheat had happened, but it takes some time to realize he had cheated by somebody else. Say for example, so Mr. A cheated Mr. B. He does not know that he is going to cheat me, but also he gets cheated. Okay, so unknowingly he gets cheated, but later he get realized that Mr. A had cheated me. That kind of a contract, that we call it as a voidable contract. It is invalid contract. Okay, so that we call it as a voidable contract. Void contract means invalid contract. This voidable contract also invalid, but in void contract, knowingly it is illegal that they are going to enter the contract. But in voidable contract, unknowingly, that is for the fraudulent purpose, or he is going to cheating me. Okay, so unknowingly they are going to enter the contract. The cause is cheated. Okay, fine. Okay, so sale by a person of goods under a voidable contract. Best example I will give you. So Mr. A, Mr. B. Let me consider Mr. B as a goldsmith. Okay, Mr. B is a goldsmith. Mr. A purchased 10 grams of gold from Mr. B. Okay, so what happened? He had purchased 10 grams of gold from the end of Mr. B. So he had purchased 10 grams of gold, but after the sale, okay, Mr. B realized that the currency that he had given to Mr. B completely quota. It is not real, it is fake note. Okay, so that is quota note. You get to know that the amount that is paid by Mr. A is complete a quota note. Before Mr. B realized that Mr. A had cheated Mr. B, Mr. A is going to sell the product to Mr. C. If the ownership is with Mr. A, he was having a right to claim against him or take back the gold. But he had already transferred the ownership to Mr. C. But here Mr. C have a complete ownership title. Okay, he have a good title of ownership because Mr. A had cheated Mr. B but not Mr. C. Here in this circumstance, what happened? If any complaint that is given by Mr. B against Mr. A but not against Mr. C, because Mr. C is not aware of these all things that had happened, because the cheat is happened by Mr. A to Mr. B. There is no involvement or interference of Mr. C. Means he will be getting the complete ownership title. Okay. Here Mr. B does not have rights on Mr. C and also Mr. B have a complete right on Mr. A. It looks like a complicated thing. Okay. But if you once you get to know, so it will be very easy right? Sale by a person who had already sold to goods but continues to have possession according to section 30 subsection 1. So there are two parties, Mr. A and Mr. B. What it is going to say, firstly, the good had already sold, but he is going to retain the possession of good. So what happened? Mr. A sold his car worth of rupees 2 lakh to Mr. B, but also B had not yet collected his car. Okay, so what happened? After a few months that I'm going to collect the car, Mr. B is going to say. So what happened? So after selling the car, after collecting 2 lakh rupees, okay, so what happened? Mr. A sold the same car for Mr. C for 2,50,000 rupees, because if he compare both the price, okay, 2 lakh rupees and 2,50,000, he can get 50,000 rupees of profit extra if he sell the same car to Mr. C. So what happens? Mr. A is going to hand over the car to Mr. C and collect 2,50,000 rupees. Okay, so what happens when Mr. B asks Mr. A about the car? He is going to say that the car had already sold to Mr. C. Okay, you collect your 2 lakh rupees. He is going to give back the 2 lakh rupees amount that is paid by Mr. B, because he want extra profit of 50,000 rupees. He made a profit. So here, under this circumstance, what happened? When the car had sold by collecting the amount, okay, the ownership is already transferred to Mr. B. But once the ownership had transferred also, but the product had not transferred according to the act, okay, he have a right to sell other person for extra profit. Okay, so because he is going to give 50,000 extra when compared to Mr. B. So what happened? He hand over the car to Mr. C and collected 2,50,000 rupees, and he pay back 2 lakh rupees to Mr. B. Hence, Mr. B does not have any right to claim against Mr. C, because he is entitled properly by the ownership. Sale by a buyer obtaining possession before the property in goods have vested in him according to section 30 subsection 2. So this both things are completely similar, but there are some difference between both the things. Let me tell you. Okay, so what happened? Let me consider the same example. Okay, Mr. A have a car worth of rupees 2 lakh rupees, but Mr. B is ready to purchase the car. This is second example. Please don't get confused between that example and this example. Okay, so he have a car worth of rupees 2 lakh. Okay, so he have a car of worth of rupees 2 lakh rupees. He want to transfer to Mr. B. So Mr. B does not have cash right now, complete 2 lakh rupees. So he agreed to pay the amount by 10 equal installment. Means within 10 months, okay, he have to pay complete amount of car. So what happened? First month 20,000 rupees paid, second month 20,000 rupees paid. Okay, first month 20,000, second month 20,000, third month 20,000 paid, but fourth month he refused to pay due to some reasons, financial problem or any kind of problem. Okay, so fourth month Mr. B refused to pay 20,000 rupees, and Mr. B also asked Mr. B regarding the amount. He said, yes, I will pay you. Okay, so there is no other reply from the end of Mr. B. After 2 months, what happened? Mr. C came to Mr. A saying that, so I want to purchase the car. So what is the cost of the car? Okay, 2,50,000 rupees. On the basis of profit and also the basis of full payment of the amount, Mr. A sold the car to Mr. C, because before selling the car to Mr. C, he had already transferred the ownership to Mr. B. He does not have any ownership, but also according to Sale of Goods Act, there are certain exceptions. That exception is he have a right to sell the same car on the basis of profit to other person. So he sold a car to Mr. C for 50,000 rupees extra of profit. Okay, so what happened? After a few months, Mr. B came to Mr. A saying that, so please give me my car, I'm going to pay you full amount. He can say that, so you refuse to pay the installment amount as per your agreement. Okay, the agreement had broken. Okay, so I had already sold the car to Mr. C on the 50,000 profit. Okay, so other than 2 lakh rupees, he had given 50,000 rupees extra, that too in single settlement. Okay, so he have a complete ownership title. Who? Mr. C. Estoppel. So estoppel is a agent, okay, which act between the buyer and seller. He's a commercial agent that we can say, like mercantile agent. Not exactly mercantile agent, he's similar to him, but he's going to work on the basis of commission. Sale by a unpaid seller. Very simple concept. Who is a seller? The person, one who is going to sell the product, he is a seller. Who is an unpaid seller? A part of amount or the full amount is not paid by a buyer. We call it as a sale by a unpaid seller. For example, Mr. X and Mr. Y. There are two parties. He is a seller, he is a buyer. He is going to sell the product worth of rupees 1 lakh to Mr. Y. Okay, so Mr. Y, what happened? So how he is going to consider as a unpaid seller? He is not paid the amount to Mr. X. Okay, he is going to consider as a unpaid seller because the amount is not paid to the seller, right? So what happened? Under one circumstance, fully complete 1 lakh rupees is not paid by Mr. Y. Hence, he is going to become unpaid seller. 20% of the amount is not paid by Mr. Y, he is going to become an unpaid seller. Even there is a due of 1 rupee, also he is going to become an unpaid seller. That will be considered under a Sale of Goods Act, and also there is an exception. Hence, the ownership title is completely delivered to Mr. Y. Here, under this circumstance, what happened? If the owner partly or fully not paid for the particular product, the complete ownership title will be given to Mr. Y because he is going to purchase the product. Because he is going to make a promise saying that I am going to pay the money in future, whether it is a part amount or full amount. And also there are certain acts that must be considered according to Sale of Goods Act, and there are certain circumstances that is going to happen according to Indian law. Okay, so that must be considered according to the Sale of Goods Act. All the laws that is applicable under a Sale of Goods Act, which is going to govern by the sale of goods. The criteria must be goods. The next session we are going with unpaid seller and his rights. Sale of Goods Act 1930. What is the right of unpaid seller? As I said, so unpaid seller is a person who is partly or fully not paid the amount. So what is the right of an unpaid seller against good and against a seller? These are the two things that we need to learn in next session. Thank you.